that Katie is reviewing.
That's great. Lindsay, do you want to come in and then?
Can I ask a question, Rob, which is I'm really curious about, is what's happened to dog poo bins?
We've on our land we had almost no dog poo bins, but that's because you can use the same bins. So the same bins can be used for normal waste and dog poo waste. We encourage people to double bag if possible. But yeah, they're saying rather than having two different bins, it's now just one bin.
Because you always used to see the red bins around the place as well. And I think for anyone who hasn't seen the photographs today, these are piles and piles of dog poo top dog poos. Just, yeah. But also, as you know, you'd appeal to people in Frome to take their dog poo bin bag home if there's no room in the bin. Because also, I sort of feel sorry for a person like Woody who has to come and then pick up the dog poo. You know, yeah, I was just curious about the bins.
Andy.
Yeah, actually, that was the point I was going to come in on. That it's great that we're looking at a solution to the systemic problem, which clearly needs working on. But in the meantime, if we can try and get the message out there to dog owners, if the bin's full, then please take it home with you, because, it's a real health hazard as well as being disgusting.
Nick.
Yeah, thank you. It's lovely that other councillors other than me are talking about bins. It's great. Thanks very much. I guess the issue with Somerset taking it back from ID Verdi, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you, Rob, but I'm looking at Dawn and Mr. Boyden at the end there. Is that to deliver a better service or is it to save money? I'm asking you that because it's a sort of hypothetical question. I'm pretty sure you know the answer to that, but surely it wasn't taken on to deliver a worse service. But actually, that's what we're getting at the moment. And Rob, we've been sending Paul Becker photos of overflowing bins for a while now, but what actually happens? Do we get anything back?
Sorry. We do collate them, and we do work out how many in the last month we have sent to Somerset Council for the bins on our land, and then there's a reduction in the service charge. So if it's up to five notices, it's 5%. I can't remember the exact, but 5 to 10, it's 10%. And up it goes to 25%.
So they actually do give us there's some kind of financial benefit.
There is.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to say thank you very much to Becca, because it is impossible to coordinate. But Becca does a great job of doing that, so we do actually reduce our bill.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. And just last, Katie, as you mentioned, has arranged a meeting for the 14th of January. Hopefully some of you guys can make it as well. Thanks.
I just said one, so I'll try and rally councillors and maybe sort of staff, because it's a kind of classic thing of all of us going through the parks, etc. It's quite an easy win. I'm just wondering whether also if we put something up on Facebook about the ones in the tanks. I was thinking, because Lindsay's been doing a great job of reporting them on the Somerset Council, surely if they get like a load of reports of Frome, and it's just like Frome, not our ones, but the ones in Somerset Council, I'm just wondering whether there's worth us doing a bit of a call out to people about that.
Thanks, then. Thank you. In reply to Nick's question, yeah, the idea was to save money and get a better service. That's obviously what the point of it was, because I think Ed Verdi were a bit variable, sometimes good, sometimes not. And that clearly there's an issue at the moment, last few weeks, maybe a few months. I've just messaged Federica Smith-Roberts, the councillor responsible for communities, and she's happy to try and understand the numbers involved. So if you have any sort of report about how many bins there are, which ones are overflowing and how often, that would be helpful. Pass it to me or pass it to her directly, and she'll speak to the managers tomorrow morning. So it's community services. So it's I guess once it goes a certain distance, it becomes waste, doesn't it? The bin emptying is a service, and along with other things. So I'm happy to help sort this. It's clearly a problem, and I guess long term, if it's an option, the town council takes over this service as well, you may get a better one, but it may cost you, of course, your own finances instead. So I'm happy to deal with that, if you like. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, Rob and I talk about this quite often. There is a statutory, my life in dog poo bins. There's a statutory requirement for the council Somerset Council to remove waste in the public realm, isn't there? So we'd be paying twice for that thing, like we already do in the town centre with the town centre ranger. So we're reluctant to go down that road, I think, until it completely falls over. But the madness of the situation is, I speak to Beck on a practically daily basis about bins overflowing. And my ward in Trinity, a dog poo bin was damaged, vandalised, removed, broke, and the stuff was just on the floor. Spoke to Becca, sent her a photo, said, can you please get a new one installed, which they did last time it was broken. It wasn't, but 2 days later, a huge sign appeared, strapped to the post where the bin was, saying fly tipping is an offence. If you drop any litter around here, we have cameras on this site and we will be prosecuting you. So the joined up, or lack of joined up thinking that they're happy to prosecute people for dropping litter, but by not replacing the bin is astounding, really. And Rob and I are discussing this a lot, so we will keep an eye on it.
I think we've sufficiently explored that one. Any other questions or comments? Lindsay?
Just it's an obvious thing, but just to bring it up, that I have noticed the bins around my area, but also I was asked by the proprietors of Lee's Fish and Chip Shop, because outside their takeaway, it was piled up with rubbish, dog poo, and it had been there for a number of days. So I really felt for a takeaway business to have that outside their business.
I did report that one to Somerset, just so you're aware. And we obviously try and avoid reporting, we try and encourage the public to report ones that are not on our land. But we do obviously still get some reports in. But in terms of council, if anyone needs a map, because obviously we've taken on so much new land, if anyone does need a reminder of those sites, do let me know and I can send you a map with all of those on.
Could you please send that to all councillors? That's really helpful to have. Thank you. With all the bins, do you have the bins marked on it?
I have a bin one.
Bet you do.
Thank you. Lenka, yeah.
I just wanted to say, very obviously, but it was a really, really wonderful event on Friday, wasn't it? Well done, everyone. It was just fantastic. Really, really lovely. And we raised lots of money for Fairframe and the Freedom Christmas get-together as well.
Can I thank FTC staff particularly for that, and in particular Rachel, because I think she really led on that. I know Jane controlled for the evening, but Rachel did a brilliant job. It was, I think, quite a difficult process because we had to change the route and liaising with the police. And I wasn't actually there, but I have seen all the photos on Facebook, and it does, yeah.
It was lovely.
So I just want to put on record, thank you to and all the staff and all the councillors who, marshalled and stood around in the cold.
It was lovely. Thanks, Lenka. So I think we can move on to agenda item 3, and we have a verbal update on the Market Yard toilets. I'm going to turn to Peter for this.
Yes, well, thank you to Rachel for bringing me up to date with where we are with this particular project. So the first thing to say is that, as many of you will be aware, there was a recent engagement with stakeholders in the Froome Riverside area, a number of the venues that operate around the Cattle Market car park. Somerset Council were also represented. Their head of leisure and cultural services was there. And that was useful. What we're going to do is build on that. There's going to be a wider community engagement in the new year using our new digital engagement platform, Go Vocal. And there will also be an in-person engagement with the community around the vision for this area, and that it includes, of course, the future of the toilet block. We've started collecting data around the use of the toilets, including speaking with people attempting to visit the closed facilities and those also using the cheese and grain. So there's some ongoing monitoring of the use of these facilities, and obviously that will help us to understand the needs, and we'll feed that into the deliberations around the future of the toilets. The cheese and grain have now settled into their contract they're involved in actually servicing and maintaining the changing places toilets, and we're currently looking at how we can further tighten up on security, looking into potentially keypad and other accessible options to ensure that the changing places toilets are just accessed by those that need them. So that's really all I have to say. Obviously, we'll take any questions.
I'm just going to say I'm very glad that we're doing both a digital consultation as well as an in-person one for those people who are digitally excluded, as that's a particular hobby horse of mine. I saw Fiona's hand first.
I just wanted to add to that. I think we've sort of penciled it in for March, a decision in March. Peter, I think that's right, to come to give an update on the time frame for councillors, that it's sort of penciled in there. So by that point, and in order to, if we did decide to refurbish and go down the PWLB route, we also need to have done consultation in order to qualify for that. So all of this sort of feeds into that as well. But then, yeah, hopefully decision in March is the timetable.
Any further questions or comments on that? Not yeah, Lenka?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate about the changing places toilet, because I had actually emailed Rachel about that. So people that were coming to the Multicultural Festival particularly asked about that provision. So I'm really keen that it is secured, because nationally it is a network. So in most places, my niece uses that facility. You know, they will have either they make a phone call or they use a pad to put in a pin, and that's really important to stop the misuse that's been going on in there. So yeah, as soon as we can get it done, the better, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, now we have an update on the Open Spaces work programme, so over to Rob. I'm looking forward to lots of lovely photos, Rob.
There are photos.
Including historic ones, black and white,
Well,
from
we'll see.
Victorian era.
We'll see. Right. Okay. So it's actually only 2 months since I did the last update, so won't go on as long as I sometimes do. But there's loads of great work that the Ranger team are doing. And I'll just start with this one. We on the left was how it used to be. We had an ask from people who used to queue for the taxi rank. Could there be a bench by the taxi rank? Which sounded like a very sensible and straightforward idea. Not our land, obviously, but we said we would do it. And in discussions with the Westway, we worked out that if this fairly redundant hedge, which is just laurels, has very limited wildlife value, could be removed, we could put one in. It was quite a journey because we had to get the levels right. And I'm going to say a shout out to Dave Lucy, who came and helped us when we needed to do some tarmacking at short notice. And actually to Somerset Council, who really helped us with permission to do that. Anyway, that was quite a project. Now we've got a planter on the left-hand side, and for the first time there is now a bench where, if you're waiting for taxis, could be very, very useful. Mike worked his absolute socks off doing that one, really did. So that's a great one. That took a bit of time. And just to also mention in passing, he's just done the winter planting up of some planters that the local community are going to take on from this moment on. So that's starting to look really good. This is the discussion topic that I wanted to bring here tonight, really, for the town centre specifically. It's around graffiti. I'm not expecting us to find solutions tonight, but I just wanted to raise the issue. This is what the town centre was looking like just before half term, or at the end of half term. So, graffiti everywhere, and as the saying goes, graffiti attracts graffiti, rubbish attracts rubbish. So that's not in anyone's interest for the town to look like that. Mike worked his socks off again and did a transformation like that. The problem is that thanks to the great work of the comms team, we did a very nice little post, and we said thank you to Mike and recognised the scale of the issue. within 24 hours, 24 hours, not even 24 hours. And you can see that there's one character there doing untold damage to the town centre. And it just takes forever. Mike did do a reset, and that happened this morning, or yesterday morning.
That is actually criminal damage, isn't it? One person's graffiti is another person's criminal damage.
It's a real challenge, and we genuinely don't know what to do. If we fight it, you end up in a pitched battle, and it doesn't get anywhere. So then you take your foot off the gas, and it takes us back to where the town centre was, and nobody wants that. This one here, which is where the new bench is. There is actually a Westway CCTV, and Katie's actually made the request. Can we see if they've got footage? So we are actually going to dig into this, and if we get any images, we're working very closely with the police. Clearly, it's only a few individuals, but what an impact they have.
That's the same tag, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're all the same tag. Yeah.
I know lots about graffiti artists, but is there any merit in just trying to find him and talk to him about, I don't know, why he's doing it, how he can feel like he can engage with him or her, sorry, because they obviously just keep repeating it for some reason.
Yeah, Nick.
Open to ideas.
I won't say much, but Rob, we've brought this up at the police meeting regularly. I'm really frustrated by it, and absolutely right, it's criminal damage. Have all these been reported to the police? I met with the superintendent and chief inspector in charge of East and West Somerset last week to express my concerns about some of the issues that happened. And they said they were very keen to get involved in something that was town centre based.
Right.
And I mentioned something I'd mentioned before about maybe setting up almost like a sting operation. They said it'd be a really good project for one of their PCSOs to actually work specifically on this. I mean, here we are, a group of lay people. We can all see this is one or two people causing this problem. If we have to report them, they have to be reported to the police, I'm afraid, as individual acts of criminal damage, and then they can do some analysis and then put some resources into it, and we can maybe find an example of the Westway one where they're doing it straight away, paint it over the night, and then put a camera on it and catch them the next day. Thanks.
And Peter has just offered to do some liaising with other councils in the country, because we aren't the only town where
Sure.
we're affected.
Great, thank you, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suggestion. If you could, sorry, I jumped
It's all
in
right,
there, didn't I?
don't worry.
No, I was just, could I have those photos? And I was just thinking about getting them out on social media with young people, because if they might know who it is.
Yep.
I've used that method with when a child went missing, and it worked, because somebody knows who it is, don't they?
For sure.
And if it's done kind of anonymously or whatever.
Yeah.
Then for you.
Thank you, Lenka.
Thanks. I think there's a carrot and stick approach potentially. I mean, what do other town councils do? But if there was an area set aside for graffiti artists to express themselves, occasionally, like there is in Welshmill Park, there's a wall, but there's nowhere else where it's allowed, and then tell them everywhere else is not allowed, and they'll be prosecuted. So you can do it there, but not there. And like Lindsay says, engage with the community. There's a few people who are in tagging contests, basically, and we don't know who they are, which ruins the town. So there's got to be an engagement as well as a stick.
I just want to say I do feel very uncomfortable about us on Town Council socials posting grainy photos of an individual. Like, I completely agree reporting it to the police and going down official. I thought...
No, of the tag.
Just
the
these
tag.
images.
Okay, yeah. Just say very, yeah. But I think it's also, you know, I don't know if we can sort of work out rough costs of what this is costing, because at the end of the day, we're funded by the people in this town, right? So it's costing, the very person that's doing this is actually paying for us to remove it repeatedly in, you know, probably it would work out like a pence or something, but, you know, and I think I'll sort of, you know, maybe sort of talk about it a bit more and try and encourage people to kind of, you know, they'll have friends, you know, make it clear that this is, you know, we really are trying to combat this and it is costing us to do this, and maybe approaching it, the time it's taking. It's really sad looking at it, and and it must be so defeating for Mike, like having to, you know, it's like that. It's like, what was that, like torture thing where you dig a hole and it keeps filling in or something?
Yeah.
Get Bozzy to put out a post, maybe. You know, Poswell. He's done loads of graffiti workshops.
Right.
In the town. So if he puts something out, maybe they would listen to him.
Rachel is in contact with him, I know. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good. Okay. Some constructive ideas. Thank you for those. So moving on. Just to quickly mention the Christmas tree lights and the Christmas tree funded obviously by the council. So they went down very well this year. So just had that. I'll come to that in a second. So another project we've done in the last couple of months, Joe Morris has coordinated this, is bulb planting on some of our devolved land. We planted over 10,000 bulbs, worked with 360 school children, 40 adults, and there were 9 sites. We also worked with the Rotary Club and a separate project to plant 4,000 crocus bulbs. These are the sites where we planted. So apart from Mary Bailey, these are all new sites to us. So it's us starting to make a difference to the sites that we've just recently taken on. So right across Frome. So it's been a lovely project and had a lot of outreach to younger people. So that's been really great. And also Somerset Council have taken that as a case study, and they've written that up in their local nature recovery plan. So we're getting some recognition for the work we're doing, which is really nice. Lovely project. Just some examples in the last couple of months of us starting to get into the winter works of clearing up. This is Roddenberry close area at the end of Rodden Meadow. Talking of graffiti and how you can work with graffiti artists, this has been a really amazing project. We had done that here many moons ago, but it was starting to get quite tired, been there a very long time. So with this amazing person's help, that is work in progress, but
It's looking beautiful.
that's what we have now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on Mary Bailey, Victoria Park, the pathway in between. That's the, yeah. It is absolutely stunning. He's a graffiti artist in Bristol. He's still got about a day's work left. So if you actually go along there in the next couple of days, you might well see him. He's such a lovely guy. He had all the local school children lined up asking him questions, and he stopped and talked about it. And yeah, really amazing project. Two projects, one of which is coming up in a minute about the management plan. So Adderwell Water Meadow, I'll talk about that when I do the management plan, and the Showfield management plan. So coming to those in the next item. The community woodlands, that's really been an amazing project that's come to life in the last, it's been many moons ago, you guys voted to go down this road and do this project. There was quite a lot of work in getting to the starting block, but it's really motoring now. And thanks to the Shire horses, we've ploughed the land. And this machine here is from 1850, and it drills the seed by hand. That guy did the whole site in about 3 hours by hand, just walking, and that you can see the brushes in this big photo, and it drops the seed, and the seed is now germinating, and that will be the wildflower meadow. And then into that, we're going to be planting the trees, and that will be in early March, about 4,000 trees.
It's really motoring when you use it.
It's really trotting, yeah. So that's been an amazing project to see get going after all this time. The skate park project is also underway. That's come to life in August. It got council approval, and our timeline, we've set ourselves a very stretching timeline. And we've already recruited the fundraiser, and we'll be making our decision on the skate park contractor next month, and hopefully appointing before the new year. And then come the new year, we'll really be, everyone in the team will be recruited, and then we'll get going with 2026 being the year of the skate park, we hope. So watch this space, but that's really, really exciting. And then the actual build, we hope, will be January to March. So I'll come back in January and you can hold me to account if it's not happened, but fingers crossed. Now, here we go. Now, all of that is got a footnote. So, thank you very much, Council. You voted for this on, you voted for this in September, and it's now arrived. You can see the hedge cutter in the main picture. That is going to help us so much. Cut, the very large expanse of hedges that we've got, and we've got other pieces of equipment there as well. So that's about to be, we're about to do training on that in the next couple of months, and then we're going to do the hedge cutting. So that's absolutely brilliant. And that is the fuel store, which will accept the red diesel, which will cut our fuel costs in half. So it's all going very, very well. And that's it. That is the end of the open spaces.
Thank you.
No, well done, team. Well done, Rangers.
Andy?
One bit of the work that you didn't mention, because it's a little tiny footnote, is thanks from the Broadway Community Garden team for installing the base for what is now a functioning composting toilet.
Yay.
And at weekend we had a wheelchair user come round to give us some guidance on how we make it a fully accessible composting toilet. So we're on a good path.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Good to hear that it's being used now. Brilliant. That is good news. So that's the end of that one. Any other questions? Yes. Adam.
Adam?
Hello, thanks. There's a lot of good work going on, clearly, and the residents appreciate it, with open spaces looking better than ever, I think. One question I've got is, in the open spaces programme, the 5th item says, work with housing and planning to agree which open spaces should be maintained and which could be made available for housing. I thought, oh, we were here 4 years ago. It says ongoing. Is this a reboot of the fair housing plan for Frome, which was done before? And does it relate to the open spaces transferred from Somerset to Town Council, because they would have a say on whether
this is a long-standing item, and I think it reflects the housing emergency that was declared by the council and isn't specific to the devolved land in any way. I think it's just a standing item that we recognise there are competing needs for land, but there's no specific agenda or a plan.
Okay, I was going to say be careful, because it didn't. I think it died a death 4 years ago in some respects. People respect, people like their open spaces close to them, very local ones, very small ones even. So it's very difficult to find anywhere that's appropriate. I think that one was found from that programme out of about 10, and communities erupted all around town for a few weeks.
Can I just clarify that the 57 new open spaces we've taken on, we have taken them on to protect them as open spaces, and I don't think that conversation is relevant to any of those or any of our existing land. I think it's more that, it's more making the point that, we're not, that it's sort of, it's leaving that there would at least be a conversation, but everything has been taken on to be maintained as an open space that we have currently, and we're protecting it as such.
And we only took on the ones that we thought had community
Value. Yeah.
as an open space. Yeah. Dawn.
Is there any way that the public could know what those open spaces are? Is there a comms on that, and just to track what's happening with all those spaces? Because it's really quite exciting stuff, and it's their money, and it would be really nice if they could see what was happening there.
Yeah, we have this map, which I'll just rewind to.
Lots and lots of dots on here.
Yeah, which we have, I think, have we put that out? Yep.
I think we have.
About it, a previous one about doing a public version of it. I think the map that Becca's done has got like all the codes and all the there's like stuff that isn't for the public in it.
So we talked about this in our comms meeting today. So we will be looking at Miles creating a public-facing map with all of that on. So that is the plan.
Excellent. So Rob's taken a breath, and now we're going to ask him to present again.
Okay.
Now we're going to.
So, yeah, 2 management plans, both about 40 pages each, and I'll start on page 1. No.
Lots
no,
of
no, no,
photos,
no,
and I
no,
want
no,
black
no.
and white ones.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going.
This is what it looked like in Victorian times.
So, two management plans. The format has been, we've worked on the format, and basically you approve the format with the last 2, which were Victoria Park and Mary Bailey, so it's the same adopted format, and Miles has produced an excellent version of this management plan in that format. So the Adderwell Water Meadow was obviously purchased with the community with a crowdfunder that Friends of the River Frome helped us with. So this is a new site that's come to us not through the devolution route, but through community action route. And we've worked very closely with Friends of the River Frome to produce this management plan. So it's a jointly constructed management plan. Obviously, step 1 is just to save the space, but we've already engaged quite actively in managing it. We've improved the access, that's that photo on the top right. And we've removed all the Himalayan balsam from this year. It will keep coming back. It comes down in seed by the river, but we're going to do our bit to ensure that the load of seed downriver is not coming from us. And we've done a lot of work on one of the contractual obligations was that we had to do a fence to separate the boundaries, which we've done the prep work for. One very interesting little project that we're going to do is we're going to put a scrape in the water meadow. That's what the little blue map bottom left is. And the idea of that is just to create a little depression where the water floods so that more water collects and it stays as a wetland longer, and therefore the habitat value is increased. And actually, we were just going to do this work, and Storm Claudia was it came along, and but if you want to find where if you want a picture of the low-lying areas, we have the perfect one.
Are you going to
Yeah.
enhance the natural?
Exactly. We will follow exactly where the water is and just make it a bit deeper with lots of edges. Wildlife likes the edge habitat, the ecotone. So that's the sort of rough design on the left there with lots of technical term wibble wobbles. So that's going full bore. We've only had it since June, but it's going really well. We're going to, with this year, we cut all the vegetation in one go, but we're not going to do that in the future. That map where there's the purple and the yellow shows us cutting half in spring and half in autumn so that the fauna has got somewhere to go as a refuge. And so there'll always be vegetation on site from this moment onwards. There's the objectives. I won't go through them unless anyone has got a particular question. So that is Adderwell. And so the other management plan, which not Miles's fault, my fault of not being able to get it in time to be produced in the NICE format, but it will be turned into the NICE format, is the Schofield management plan. This is actually based on engagement work that we did the previous year. And in summary, it's very well used, one of our most well used sites, and it's much loved. You can see there the overall scores, only 4% there was any negativity. And it's very interesting, the mix of users, because you have the active users, the dog walkers and the runners, who love the site. But there's also another group, and that's the group who come there because it's an open space in an urban environment. So they're looking for calm space. One practical issue that we've known about and came to light through this is the drainage of the site. That we have tried to address that in the play area, but there are still there's pooling of water, and so one action is to look at the drainage. And the other two actions that we explored, you can see there in that word cloud, bottom left, that a dog area was one of the things that was recommended. But we reviewed that and we came to the conclusion that actually there'd be a lot of impact on local residents because it probably would have been very popular. So we pulled back from that. But this idea that there could be a benefit in having separation and having a calm space is why section number 9, which is the community orchard, we're looking at making that a little bit calmer and having a bit of separation. Those are the two real main actions. And oh yeah, and then in 1920, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
It hasn't changed that much.
There we go. Yeah. Started in the early 19th century, moved to the Showfield in the early 20th century. We bought it in the early 21st century. I think, Adam, you had a bit of an involvement in that journey of the purchase. So, yeah, thank you very much. Anyway, so the recommendation is to adopt the two management plans. Any questions?
Andy.
Just to go back to an old chestnut of mine, I love these management plans and I love this new standard format.
Yes.
I think we should make them much more easily accessible by putting some QR codes out there on the sites that people can scan with their phones and just bring up all that information about the environment they're walking in.
Yes, that's a very, very good suggestion, Andy. We have looked at, it's on the to-do list, I think, still, to do a one-page summary of each one as well, so that you could it'd be more accessible. Making those accessible on site is an interesting idea. The QR code debate, I think the pendulum's swinging towards QR codes. They seem to be used more and more. But anyway, good suggestion, something we can review. Fiona.
Picking up on that, someone made a suggestion underneath Nick's video today, I think, which is part of Perfume 52 project, which was sort of asking ideas. And someone mentioned about sort of having something about the wildlife they were talking about along the riverside. But I just thought, I really love the list of all the species in the Adderwell Water Meadow one. And I just think there's something really interesting there, particularly given our renewed focus on River Frome. I'm just kind of adding that to the, overall mix.
That's a very interesting and topical question, because we've been looking at how we can bring some of that information about both the natural heritage and also the cultural heritage of the River Frome, how that can be brought to life. But Joe Morris has been doing a project to record through iNaturalist all the species across the sites that we own in Frome, and so there's projects in iNaturalist for each of our sites. And if you're a wildlife enthusiast, you can record and log the species, and so gradually the data set gets better and better.
It might be an idea to record both the nice species and also things like the balsam that are invasive.
Definitely. Yeah, that is the idea with the iNaturalist, is that literally everything is on there. Yeah.
Fiona.
I also noticed and I'm sort of slightly hesitant about bringing this up, in the sort of the old Showfield, is the sort of some of the data that was collected around the usage of the site, and it does sort of talk about the numbers of women and men, boys and girls who sort of use the site. And obviously this sort of conversation came up around the skate park at the meeting in August. And I think it's as I think Robert, we all know, it's a very complicated thing, but I did think it was very interesting that this was done before the big, the play area.
Yep.
And you sort of said, it'd be great to sort of revisit this. I just wanted to sort of, and I know this is already sort of in the works and we're looking at different things we can do, but I just think it would be really good for us to collect that data as it is now, because
it would.
As we are doing with the skate park, looking at usage before it and looking at usage after, to make sure and to double check that we're doing that research so that we know if there is any change in usage and if it does have a negative impact. I just kind of wanted to emphasize that it would be really great to do that.
It would.
We have that baseline data there.
How has it changed as a result of well, the big thing that happened was the play area
Yeah.
renovation. It would be great. It would be great to see the change.
Of which inclusivity was right at the heart, and I know that there was a lot, you know.
Very interestingly, it's about a 50-50 split men and women, but in terms of younger people,
Yeah.
it's much more about boys rather than girls. Or
Yeah, which was
men and women.
interesting, and it would just be great to have that up to date data.
I would hope that had shifted to being a bit
I
more
would.
equal.
I would, and if it would be great if we could, show that.
Thank you. Adam? Holly? Sorry, I hadn't noticed you.
Thanks. I think I've noticed a shift. Many more girls in the park at the old show field, including my daughter, who loves the youngest daughter, loves the fitness equipment. I put this management plan around. I know a lot of people from being councillor there, and some questions and quiz. If I send to Rob, you'll see the detail and the contacts as well. But some questions came. Can we have more talking benches? So benches next to each other at right angles, so people can talk to each other rather than just separate.
Sure.
Lonely benches.
Right.
More diagonal paths was requested. Don't know about
more. What? Sorry.
More diagonal paths across. I don't know about that.
Right.
More seats by the cricket pitch so you can watch the match, perhaps. One of the Collegians people says that the drainage from the Collegians and Selwood pitches are not contributing to the waterlogging because they're going directly to underground pipes. But there's obviously the ground around it. A request to cut more grass in areas 2 and 3, which is to the south. A request for public toilets at the cricket club for the park runners. That's obviously a longer term, more expensive project to open that up. That was in there. And also, is this site protected through legislation, including the paths at all, or simply by town council's ownership?
It's protected through town council's ownership, and also it's in the Theodore LaGrosse Trust. I think so. I think that was done quite recently.
You're right, actually, yes.
So it has a large measure of protection from that. There's also, Jane would be the right person to talk about this, but there is also, following the recent decisions made with other open spaces, there's the question about whether it benefits from designations of open space under the DP16. But that's a wider. Not sure. But it is. It probably is now. I mean, I think it's got a very high. There's no way that under the current regime, and I can't hardly imagine it ever changing, that protection would not hold. So yeah, I think there's a high measure of protection. Diagonal paths. There are some desire lines. Whether we want to change, that would be quite a big change to actually put hard paths in. There is in 10, because that's where we put the blossom circle. So there's hard standing diagonals in that path. In terms of cutting, you said 2 and 3. 3 is the Collegian, so I think you mean 2 and 4. We do cut that now. We do cut that on a fortnightly basis. That is now cut for amenity. So that was a change that we put into place as a result of the consultation. The cricket club and the toilets, well, Mark and I had quite a series of conversations with the cricket club about whether Frome Town Council would get more involved with the cricket club. In the end, that just didn't come to fruition. It's not our land, so therefore it's really a conversation with the cricket club rather than with us about toilets down there. I can't remember the other questions.
That'll do. Thank you.
Polly.
Thanks. I just wanted a little bit more information about the on the word cloud. The dog area is obviously, the largest thing, and you said that you pulled back from it because of residents. I just wanted to know, was it dog owners or non-dog owners in the main asking for it? Do you have that information?
It was actually a bit of both. It was dog owners in particular. It's such a loved space for dog walkers, but there's nothing for them. And so there was an ask, could there be an exercise area, a play area, a socialising space where you would meet other dog. And it was explored in some detail, and it went to the ward councillors. So some of them are here today if they want to comment on that. Whilst on the one hand there was a strong pull from the visitors to the site. That the other factor, of course, is the impact on the local residents, and so we're talking about number 11. So I don't know if either Tracy or well, I'm just.
So it has been a previous discussion. It's a fair question, but there was strong arguments both ways, and in the end, spending money when the balance is relatively even seemed unfair.
Tracy.
Yes, and my memory of that as well was the people who were upset by the possibility of it were equally as upset as the people who were enthusiastic about the possible ideas of it. And some people, I mean, this might be obvious to some, but it wasn't to me until it revealed itself, that some people who had dogs didn't think it was a good idea either. They felt it, there were lots of reasons about that. I mean, I'm not a dog owner, but there were quite strong views even from dog owners about not having it. So we covered it with quite a lot of resident contact, if I remember rightly.
Fiona.
Response to Adams and then just this conversation is just sort of to really reiterate that all of these management plans are based on quite extensive engagement with the public, and it's done in quite a nuanced and like multifaceted way. Like we sort of, there was the old Showfield had a sort of a 2-week or 3-week engagement last summer. We sort of check ideas. It's, if you give it, everyone always has an opinion about, what they would like to see in their own spaces. And we do really listen and do take on board things. And it is about balancing that and looking at what is, trying to provide something for everything. And I think, Rob, you do a brilliant job of that, like synthesizing it down. But it is, all of this is based on extensive engagement and, and listening to what residents would like. And there'll always be people that, would like it to be something different. And we just try and balance all of that together.
I think passions run really quite high about what you feel is your open space in the town. It's for me, it's the dippy. That's my dippy. What are you doing with my dippy?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's a great conversation, but I think I'm ready to propose that we go ahead and adopt those management plans.
So Andy's proposing, Polly's seconding.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you. So now moving on to updates and additions to the staff handbook. And I think I'm looking at Laura for this.
I was going to say, you'll be pleased to know I'm true to form, as always. Hopefully you've had a chance to read through the extensive policies, and it was just to ask if anyone had any questions they wanted me to clarify.
We're continually adding to our list of policies. I suppose as we get more and more policies, it's difficult to see how one policy might interact or even counteract another policy. So is it only you that keeps all of this in your head?
Not only me, I definitely keep a watchful eye on it. I keep very close eye on, obviously there's lots going on at the moment with the Employment Rights Bill. There's lots of potential changes that are coming up. I keep in good contact with South West Councils, who are our HR advisors. Unfortunately, I'm not an employment lawyer, so I can't be quite as extensive. So it just makes sure that we are being compliant and that we are up to date, and make sure that our staff have access to the correct information and the information that is legal and up to date, so that if there was an issue or something that needed to be went through, then we would be sure that we were doing the best by them.
And presumably when we get advice to have a new policy, I notice we now have a menopause policy, for example, and presumably that comes out of case law where there's been a tribunal, and from that tribunal then you need to have a policy to make sure that you don't fall foul of that in the future.
Yeah, often, I mean, obviously, and the conversations around certain subjects. So menopause has quite rightly had quite a lot of attention.
Well, it affects 52% of the population at some point.
Exactly, and you know, it got brought up in Parliament. So there's sort of a wave that comes, and for us, I think it's important for us to recognise those shifts when they happen, and it's just another way of supporting. So we don't have to have a menopause policy. None of these are exactly mandatory. Obviously, some things like absence management and you know, grievances and things like that are. But I just think the more strings we've got to our bow, the more support, the more processes that we can put in place.
We all know where we stand. I think that's
exactly, and I think it gives that equitable access as well to all members of staff. You know, we all experience life in different ways, but if there is a consistent way that we can approach these situations and then adapt them and tailor them to that individual, it just gives us sort of a starting basis to work from.
Andy.
Yeah, I do want to thank you for the huge amount of work you've put into this, Laura. It's a really nice piece of work, and I, as you can imagine, I did go through it in some detail because it's what I do. The only question I could come up with actually was there's a comment that you'll make sure all staff get a copy of this. I'm hoping that's not going to be a hard copy and that we're only circulating digitised versions.
Absolutely, I remember our ethos. No, obviously I will go through again and do a massive update and insert all of these policies and make sure that they're up to date in the really big 100+ page document that we've got at the moment. It does sit on the website, so it's always easily accessible. I'm going to look at Becca when I say this, but there's sort of internal systems that we can use that I want to get better at using so that we can make the policies more accessible internally through our sort of HR systems. So we could split the policies down so they're more accessible, easier to update. We can ask people to make sure that they've read them, so we can sort of sign them off and say, all staff can sort of make sure that they've said, yes, actually, I have read that, and they're aware of it.
I'm not paying that overtime, Bill.
So, but it also makes them really accessible when they're needed, so you don't have to go trawling.
I think that's the important thing. I don't expect any of the staff are going to read the employee handbook from cover to cover, but they will know that it is there, and when they need to access a particular section, they know how to get to it.
Exactly, and that is something I want to improve on internally, so that's just something that I will look at doing and see how we can best go about that, just so that staff know always where they can look. And then you're not going to want every single policy. You're always going to be looking for a very specific policy. So it's just about making that easy to find.
Excellent. Right, so we have to now move to a vote. So I'm going to suggest that we take all three recommendations in one block. Approve the changes to the policies that are shown in the appendices. Note the policies that will be brought back to future committee meetings for approval. Delegate to the executive assistant to the town clerk and mayor to update the staff handbook with the new policies and ensure all employees have an up-to-date digital copy. Steve is proposing, Andy's seconding.
And that's unanimous.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks, Adam. So, agenda item 7. Unfortunately, Sarah's not very well. Sarah always says, I know you've already read the papers, and are there any questions? Becca is here to take us through the paper and answer any questions. But before we do it, I am going to say that Sarah has said to me, how can I get the councillors to ask more questions? And it's something that I have experienced. I'm chair of the Pensions Board, Somerset Pensions Board, and I know there are board members that don't really understand what's going on. So often I find myself asking a question that I know the answer to, just so the question gets asked. Please, can I reinforce the fact that There is no such thing as a stupid question. If there is something that you don't understand about our finances, it's highly likely there are other people in the room that also don't understand. Please have the courage to ask the question. You will not be exposing your ignorance, you are just asking a valid question. Becca.
Thank you, Anne. Slightly in opposite to that is I might not have the answer because Sarah would have the answer. So if you do have any questions, that I would probably suggest contacting Sarah with those on this occasion. But yes, as Sarah has sent me some highlights from the report just to inform you all. So hopefully you have all read the report. As of at the 18th of November, an estimated 64,000 underspend will be returned to general reserves at the 31st of March 2026. We're currently working on the 26-27 budget, and we'll be looking carefully at underspends in the current year to support next year's budget. In the report, you would have seen the over and underspends table. The notables from this are, so notable underspends and under budget. Community engagement, 15k on Citizens Assembly is being budgeted for 26-27 instead. Waste management at the Town Hall is 10k, better waste services contracts. Grillo was purchased in the previous year earlier than budgeted for, which was 50,000, and the markets under by 20,000 after paying TFI to manage, so that's the Freedom Independent. Notable overspends over budget, so lost rental income on Badgers Hill of 8,000, increased costs on Badgers Hill of 8,000, Green and Healthy Lotto project, Freedom Town Council's match funding increased by 10,000. Victoria Park Yard maintenance was £10,000 in additional security costs. Councillor allowances, new lead councillor allowance of 90,000. The by-elections, market and park wards of 20,000. And finally, the external auditor's report. It's key to note that the auditors, both internally and externally, do not consider it adequate that a committee other than the council, even if delegated by council, approve the risk management report. Therefore, this must be done by council and within the financial year. And that's it.
Thank you, Becca. Right, who's going to ask a question about our finances? Andy, well done.
Okay, yeah. So there's a few things on ins and outs, but Anne and I are meeting with Becca and the team next week to go through a detailed BACS transaction. So a lot of my minor questions can be answered there. There were a couple of things on the EMR list that caught my eye. One's a tiny little one, which is that we've got an EMR 311, which has only got £392 left in it. And I'd have thought it's easier just to return that to general reserve than hold 400 quid as an EMR.
I think Sarah tends to do a sweep at the end of the year to do that.
She is specifically on a mission this year to liquidate EMRs, and there have been, Rob knows there's been emails gone to managers, so just to flag that there is
I'd got that response.
She's on a mission.
Yeah. But there is a big bucket still sat there of 125k held against the school streets project. Now, I understand that's not all our money because some of it was Sustrans funded, but given, is that all Sustrans?
It's not just Sustrans. We also received money from Somerset Council. There were two tranches of Active Travel England funding that came in to fund that particular project. One came via Sustrans, the other one came via Somerset Council. And the reality is that because it's grant, we can't easily release that EMR funding. It's obviously,
so it's restricted grant effectively?
It is, and potentially there are some additional items of expenditure to be incurred using that funding. There's a road safety audit that needs to be completed, and I think we also have a bill that we're expecting from Somerset Council for their superintendent's fees. So that's the work that they have done to oversee the construction work. So we need to hang on to those EMRs for the moment to cover that expenditure.
Okay, thank you. Over to Steve then.
Thanks, Annie. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. Are we generally on track then for the budget between now and the end of the year? I mean, you mentioned a £64,000 underspend. Does that mean that if that carries on, we're going to have an underspend at the end of the year? Or okay, ask Sarah, don't worry. And one other thing,
We'll come back to you on that.
yeah, I noticed in the earmark reserves, there's about 50,000 set aside for CRM. The CRM thingy that I guess we're doing or not doing or we're talking about doing. Where are we with that? Hasn't been mentioned recently.
Yeah, that's come up recently, and I'm trying to wrap my brains as to what Sarah mentioned it to me. I can't think. I think it's one of the ones that we're looking at liquidating. 'Cause I think that I'm going to say something I shouldn't. I don't know actually.
Well,
It's been mentioned to me recently. Is all.
customer response relationship management. Yes. Yeah. I think there are different ways of dealing with it. Yeah, we put it off long enough that a different form of software is available now that does it better. So thank you for questions. Your task is next time our finances are put in front of us is that you all have a question that you want the answer to. Okay? That's your task. That's your homework.
Some recommendations.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're working on it so far. And Andy, Sarah and I are working on our medium-term financial plan, which I think the idea is that we bring that here first to have a more in-depth discussion, and then we take it to full council after that. As Peter says, we have some recommendations. I better look to you because I can't find them in my notes. Are on the screen. And again, I'm going to suggest we take them as one block, unless anyone objects to that. So we have to approve the appendices, note the auditor's report. So Fiona's proposing, Andy's seconding.
Unanimous.
Brilliant. So now we have agenda item 8, and this it's a bit of a shame that we've got to have this, but I personally, and I know our reception staff, I think lots of council staff and lots of public-facing people within the town are experiencing a higher level of people in crisis, seeking help that perhaps we can't give, which is an increasing frustration for that person. And the way that they react to that is sometimes quite confrontational. So this is the idea of having a policy that we don't expect our staff to have to deal with someone who is shouting at them. Over to Laura.
Yeah, so it was what Anne said after we had a big conversation. Well, we ended up having a big conversation out of another topic. So actually, I found this a really good exercise in just pulling together all of the things that we are actually already doing. But sometimes they feel quite remote from each other, but actually they all interconnect in one way. So I think it was a really good process just to show that there's lots of things that we are doing, and there's lots of processes that we have in place that do put safety at the forefront of lots of things that we do at the town hall. And conversely now, well not conversely, but also in addition, the Key Centre is much more part of our everyday realm as well. So lots of the things that I was starting to talk about for the town hall is actually now applicable to the Key Centre. So obviously the Key Centre's come on leaps and bounds, and there's been so much going on and so much hard work and community engagement and community use up there. So some of those things with the Key Centre will evolve a bit. And actually, I did want to make a minor correction that Liz Stone, one of the community engagement officers, brought up, that in the report that we said it was because the Key Centre was a little bit out of the way. They weren't sort of having people drop in the same way that we would at the town hall. But Liz wanted to say that's not always the case, that I think because the Key Centre is more visible to a lot of people now, it's got a lot more community use, that they are having more people drop in, and they actually want to encourage it as well. They want it to be that space. So like Liz said, that they're trying to do winter pop-up cafes, sort of to get people through the door. They're looking at taking off the buzzer off, because obviously you'd need to buzz in to get in at the moment. So all positive things, but obviously we'll go through that lens of that safety thing that we've been talking about with the town hall as well.
Because one way to deal with safety of our staff would be to shut the doors, which we don't want to do. This is a safe space. This is a public space. This is a place where someone can come if they are in crisis. So we as a team need to understand what we can do to help someone, which is mainly signposting. We are not able to help directly. That's not what we do, but we need to know where they can access help and how to deal with someone in crisis. And I know our reception staff have been on some training, but there's more training that they're going to go on as well.
Yeah, so next week, next Friday, a large group of us are going to do what they call de-escalation training. So and I'm sure many people have come across it. So it will be in those situations where we are faced with that person that is unable to regulate and is unable to take on board what we're saying to them, is to have some techniques that we can all employ, just so we can talk that person through and enable them to leave the building in a safe way. Our customer services advisors are brilliant, and their breadth of knowledge, and we keep in contact with lots of different organisations. You know, we've always got staff around. There's always someone to jump in at the moment's notice. You know, as soon as you hear a raised voice, it's very out of the ordinary. So there is always support for somebody if they are feeling vulnerable. And the advice we would always give to any staff member, any volunteer, any counsellor, if you are feeling unsafe, is to remove yourself from that situation. And you would call the police. That's the bottom line. We would never encourage any of our staff to put themselves in a situation that they do not feel equipped to deal with. But obviously, saying that, we will provide the best training that we can, and the best support that we can, that if they do find themselves in those situations, that we can keep them safe. So we're doing sort of the first tranche on next Friday. Depending on the feedback of how that goes and how people find the training and whether they find it's really useful, I want to do a second training session in the new year, and that can sort of bring up other people, other staff members, so that we've all got that sort of, again, that base knowledge, that base process in the way that we approach how we deal with these situations. And like I said in the report, I think what we could then do is just have a very simple process, maybe like a bit of a lovely flow chart of just, if this situation appears, this is the steps that I take and this is how I deal with it. But I think we need to base that on the training that we do, and make sure that it is a process that is a collaborative process between staff, so that they feel they've got ownership of it and can easily employ it if they need to.
And talking to Nikki Cox in our communities team, and I'm going to look at Lenka now. I know the hope is that we taste test the training that's available, and then hopefully open it out to all the public facing organisations within the town, certainly not the not-for-profit ones anyway, to have a town-wide response to this, because people are in crisis, and the safety net, the state safety net has got so many holes in it now that people are falling through and are in crisis by the time they try and access the service, by which time their needs are so complex that someone on reception just can't solve their problems. So hopefully it's going to be widened out to the town. Lucy.
Just to say, because the word zero tolerance are quite strong, I think we're talking much more about the safety element of that at the moment. And there's an element of the zero tolerance policy is that lots of councils have them. And in the age of social media, it's about people are not necessarily vulnerable, but about respectful communication and about what we can do as an organisation if someone is really not communicating respectfully, that we've got something to fall back on, to say now we will communicate with you, but we will communicate with you in writing, because we've had some instances of that. So the zero tolerance element of it has not come about because of vulnerable people who the town hall are absolutely here to help. I just wanted to make sure that was said.
Fiona.
So I agree, it's sad that we have to have it, but having been around where there was an incident, I completely agree with the need for this. And Lucy, I think you wrote it, and I just thought it was really well written and really clear. The only thing I just wanted to say, and I have sort of mentioned this previously, is the policy about there being one manager in on a Friday. I just think it needs to be more. And I know that will come up when we look at the hybrid working and all of that sort of other grouping of things that we've sort of spoken about at the next operations and assets, but just to kind of flag that I do think for many reasons, we need to make sure that there is cover on all days of the week, and right up until the end of the day as well. So I just wanted to flag that.
Thank you. Oh, Andy.
Of course, Andy. I've got 3 bullets. The first actually is staring me on that screen. I've not seen it before. Groups also let people in via the side doors, so we don't always know who's in the building.
It's the key.
I know that's the key centre, but the key centre should also be covered by our same process. It's how do we know if there's a fire at the key centre, who's got to be evacuated?
I think it's to do with the bookings of people. I will clarify with Liz, but I think it's to do with the people that book the space can have the space even if a staff member is not there. But I'm looking at Becca to...
That's what I was going to say. Like, obviously, if we have the space, it's up to that organisation to know who's in their space because you've rented it.
Okay.
And to make sure that that was something I was going to add, that about make sure they've got the right safeguarding processes in place.
Yeah.
As well.
So our lettings policy should ensure that whoever is taking on that space is taking on the various responsibilities.
There is a hire agreement that they sign.
Yeah, there is a hire agreement, and I believe it does get, if it's not in there, I need to double check, but there is sort of an agreement that if there is an event on, that they provide their own register of attendees and that they're responsible for that.
Okay, thank you. 2 other things. The draft zero tolerance statement is great and really full, but I think we need on display in reception a précis of this that just says, behave yourself, these are human beings, or whatever the right wording is. I'm not going to craft the words, but something that's in a few sentences and is clearly visible that says we don't tolerate misbehaving individuals. And then the third one is buried deep in the report somewhere. There's a thing about DBSs on councillors. And I think we've talked this through before, and I'm completely in agreement that there's no requirement to do that, nor should there be. But I do wonder if there's value in us maintaining a register of who got one anyway and in what context, so that if we are looking to draw on those resources, we know who to ask.
That would be really good. So any councillor that we have made an application for a DBS through other mechanisms than just being a councillor that might have needed it for a very specific event, or they're part of another one of the groups, like Let's Talk, say, I would have that on file, but it would be really handy for me if you could let me know if you have a DBS through another mechanism, another organisation, that I can keep a note of that just to refer to at another time. But yeah, I just wanted to pull that up because we've obviously got the policy on the DBSs. It was a conversation that we'd had. I double checked with South West councils if they knew that was a policy for other councils. So it's definitely something that can be revisited if you want to, but that's just flagging that as it is.
Sorry, Lynn.
I don't know if this is the right forum to mention it, but because we're talking about it, I was asked recently to go to a resident's house for a meeting, and it occurred to me I felt quite vulnerable doing that, and I just wondered, I obviously was sensible about it, but is there anything written down about things like that?
There isn't specifically. This is the where we find it really tricky between staff and councillors, and obviously most of our policies are related to staff. But the general safety, there's lots of great training out there for councillors specifically about keeping yourself safe in the wake of some horrible incidences, unfortunately.
I think it was LGA training that I went on about safety when various politicians have been assaulted.
I
in the
think
past.
we would never encourage any of you to attend a resident's house alone. Or ask them to meet you in a public space or at an event or even
here.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't doing that, but I just thought in case someone, it's difficult when someone, they're very persuasive. Obviously, I wouldn't do it alone, but other people might feel that, with newer people coming on, I just wondered if there was policy.
Yeah, so that's, Peter was just saying that we could actually do some research into some training that's available to councillors specifically around keeping yourself safe, and I could share that with you. Obviously, as any other training is offered, we can obviously book you onto those trainings.
Yeah, because it also came up, I was talking to someone else who's in the sort of public eye, as it were, from a business point of view in Frome, and they said that as a councillor you should expect to be kind of harangued in the street, people saying stuff to you, which I totally disagreed with, but it kind of just made me feel like people shouldn't think that is actually an okay thing to do.
No, it's not.
No. So again, I just also got me thinking, as a new councillor, like what would you do if you're in that situation? I was working at an event recently where I was running the door, someone came in, wow, about something that had happened, and I just, just got me thinking about your visibility.
And something that we've signed up to as a council is the Civility and Respect Pledge, and that goes for all of our interactions, whether it's between us, councillors and staff, members of the public, volunteers, and anyone. We all deserve civility and respect. We shouldn't have to have a pledge, but we have a pledge. So do we have a recommendation on this? We adopt it? To adopt the zero tolerance statement for public display in the reception areas of the town hall and quay centre. So Polly is proposing, Lindsay is seconding.
I'm going to abstain because I think it's too wordy for public display as it stands.
So that's majority, and we'll note your abstention.
Alistair is unwell. So we've got another report that, are you giving this, Peter?
I'm not giving a detailed presentation, but I just wanted to say a few words, and you probably picked up from the report that Alistair's arrival as our facilities manager has been a real game changer. They've been doing some really great work around the buildings and other assets that we own. You'll see from his report, there's a very thorough approach to health and safety and compliance issues and other things that we need to do in order to look after our assets. And we've really valued his professional knowledge when questions have come up in the last few weeks in particular. I think the thing for me to say now really is, do you have any questions about the report? Well, I'll do my best to answer them. If I can't, then we'll make sure we get answers as soon as we can.
Lenka.
I haven't read the report, I'll be honest. But the Town Hall building envelope project, just wondering, something I've been going on about for a couple of years, whether it includes the disabled access to the rear of this building. So during COVID, disabled parking space was repainted and not quite right, basically. And so it's access into our building for wheelchair users is really difficult because when the car is parked in that space, and then if someone parks in that space, they have to go through the car park and then into the side door. So will that be looked at? Because there was going to be a drop curb so that someone can go from that disabled space down past the fridge, then through the side door. Because I know someone actually fell out of their wheelchair through the car park doing that. Just wondered if that was...
I mean,
yeah.
regardless of whether it's included in the envelope project, we'll make sure that that's looked at, because clearly that's unacceptable.
Yeah, because there's one of our pantry users, you know, she has to go around her car to get into the building, so it's really not...
We'll definitely look at that. It's really important that we have that accessibility to the building.
Got a weird feeling that I've literally just read something that is about that it's included somewhere, but I now can't find it. But I'm sure I've
I know. Jane's looked at the designation, because it isn't formally designated as a disabled space at the moment. So there needs to be some work done on that. And I know Jane's flagged that. So it is. I know it's being looked at. I don't know more than that. But.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Peter said, actually. I mean, since Alistair came on board, his approach to all of the assets and the buildings has been so thorough, and you can see that from the report. And it's a joy, actually, because just let him get on with it.
Well, and he's absolutely doing what we aim to do, which is take the burden away from the other members of the senior management team who are having to do all of this stuff as well as their day job. So,
well, I think we're now comfortable that we have things like insurance and stuff like that in place, because I know in previous times there was a bit of a grey area as to what was covered and how it was covered and if it was covered. And I think that's the same with things like, you know, just little things like fire extinguishers and stuff like that. I mean, you know, they need to be checked every year. You know, you need to have someone doing it, basically, and he's brilliant at all that sort of stuff.
so I think we can save his blushes because he's not here. But I think we're all agreed he's doing a fantastic job. Thoroughly pleasant chap.
We'll.
He cycled from London here, basically. He did. Yeah, that should be any reason to employ.
Can I just say that we'll make sure that Alistair is at the next meeting, because I think it would be interesting to hear from him directly in terms of the work that he's doing, and I'm sure that you'll have kind of ongoing questions for Alistair, and we'll ask him to bring his collection of jackets with him.
And his bicycle. Fantastic. We now have to have a vote because we're going to propose that the next item is held in confidential session because it relates to staff matters. So I shall propose that we move into confidential session, and I'm going to get Andy Jones to second that. And that is unanimous. Oh, before you leave, the next meeting is on Wednesday, the 28th of January,